So you're listening. Everything's going fine. You're following the conversation, reading the article, watching the video, and then it happens. A long word appears. Your brain does that thing where it tries to grab onto something familiar, but the word is just too much, too many syllables, too unfamiliar. So you do what most of us do. You skip it. You keep going and hope the sentence still makes sense without it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then when you look the word up later, you realize parts of it actually make sense. You've seen those pieces before, but in the moment, it felt like a wall. If that's ever happened to you, this episode is going to change how you read, listen, and learn in English. Because here's the truth. The problem isn't your vocabulary size. The problem is that no one showed you how English actually builds words, especially long words. By the end of this episode, long words are going to stop feeling like walls and start feeling like puzzles. Puzzles you can solve. So let's get started. If you're new here, hello, hello. I'm Jean. I've been teaching since 2019, and you're listening to English Extras, a podcast designed to help English make more sense. There's this belief that floats around in language learning circles, and I think a lot of us absorb it without realizing. It goes something like this: short words are everyday English, long words are academic English. And academic English, that's a whole different can of worms. That's the stuff you have to memorize. That's not everyday English. But here's the thing. I know so many of you want to expand your vocabulary. You don't want to continue using simple words. I actually have a lot of opinions about that topic, but you know what? We'll save it for another episode. There's good news here. English doesn't usually invent new meanings for long words. It recycles old ones aggressively. In fact, English is kind of lazy. Instead of creating brand new words from scratch, it just reuses the same parts over and over in different combinations. Think about it like this. If you know the word agree, you're already halfway to understanding disagreement, agreeable, agreeably, and unagreeable. You don't need to memorize 4 new words. You need to recognize that English is using meaningful units you already know to create new words and new meanings. That's what I want you to take away from this episode, if you take anything away. Long words aren't harder because they mean something exotic. They're just familiar meanings pieced together. And once you see the pieces, everything gets easier. So let me give you some examples that will help make this stick. Long words look like one single unit, but they're often made up of smaller, meaningful units. Each piece of the word pushes the meaning in a certain direction: positive or negative, bigger or smaller, more or less, adjective or verb. You don't need the full dictionary definition to understand a sentence. You just need a general idea. You need to know what direction the word is pointing. Here's a question for you. When you miss one word in a sentence, do you lose the whole idea? If the answer is yes, this is the missing skill. This is what we're fixing today. First, let me tell you about the terms. This isn't a boring grammar lesson. If you want to understand how this works, these are the terms you should know. It's also helpful to know these terms if you want to learn more after this episode. Let's make this short and sweet. English words are often made of 3 types of pieces. Prefixes come at the beginning and usually flip the meaning between 2 states. For example, a prefix can make something positive or negative, before or after, forward or backward. Think of words like undo, which means to do something, then reverse it. How do I know that? The prefix un, which makes the verb negative. Redo means to do something again. How do I know that? The prefix re, which means again. Even the word prefix has a prefix. Do you know what it is? Pre, which means before. We see this in words like preheat and predetermine and pregame. So prefixes come at the beginning. What comes at the end? Suffixes. Suffixes come at the end and tell you what kind of word you're dealing with. Is it a person, a process, a quality? Teacher is a person. Teaching is a process. Teachable is a quality. Ing, and able are all examples of suffixes. Roots carry the core idea. Teach is the root in all those examples. Keep in mind, native speakers don't consciously analyze affixes typically. We don't sit there and think, oh yes, the prefix un indicates negation. But our brains still use them. They're running in the background, helping us guess, helping us orient. Sometimes, by the way, a native speaker will discover a gap where the speaker wants to use a particular word, but the correct form doesn't exist. Native English speakers can use these pieces I just told you about to create a new word that communicates their idea. For example, the suffix ness tells you that the word is related to the state or condition of something. We see it in words like happiness, darkness, and awareness. Sometimes when we want to talk about the state or condition of something, maybe there isn't a ness word that already exists. So we simply add ness to a word. Our speaking partner, if they're a native speaker, knows we're talking about the state or condition of something because that's what ness means, even though the word isn't technically a real word. For example, I could say, this advertisement is okay, but the corporateness is not going to connect with general audiences. This sentence is talking about an advertisement, which is a piece of media meant to tell people about a business. The advertisement could be better, but the corporateness is too much. Here, corporateness is not a real word, but a native English speaker understands that it means the state or condition of being corporate. In other words, too businesslike. Anyway, that's a fun fact. Moving on. Now, if you're at an intermediate or advanced level, this skill is especially powerful for you, and here's why. At this stage, you already know a lot of roots. Your problem isn't exposure, you've seen thousands of English words. Your problem is volume. There's too much coming at you too fast, and long words slow you down. Affixes reduce that cognitive load. They let you stay in the sentence instead of stopping to look things up or replay what someone just said 5 times. Remember, understanding 70% of a word is often enough to understand 100% of the message. Stop asking, what does this word mean exactly? Start asking, what direction is this word pointing? When you see or hear an unfamiliar word, ask yourself, is it positive or negative? Is it a process, a person, a thing, or an idea? Is it repeating something, reversing it, removing it, intensifying it? This helps you get the idea so you can still continue with the whole sentence. All right, let's look at some actual affixes. Not a list you have to memorize, just patterns you've probably already seen 100 times. Take the prefix re that I mentioned before. It usually means again or back. We see this in words like rethink, rewrite, reconsider, return, rebuild. You already know those words, right? But notice the meaning of re stays consistent. It's always pointing you toward repetition or reversal. Now that you know that, can you take a guess at the meanings of words like reorganize, reestablish, or reformulate? Or take the suffix able, able. It means can be done. Here we see words like readable, drinkable, understandable, breakable. If something is teachable, it can be taught. If something is fixable, it can be fixed. This is a very consistent pattern. So when you see quantifiable or defensible, you don't have to panic. You can think, okay, this is something that can be quantified, something that can be defended. Or again, the prefix un, it negates, like in unhappy, unfair, uncertain, unusual. And it works the same way in unconventional, unsubstantiated, and unprecedented. You might not know those words right off the bat, but the un part immediately tells you this is the opposite of something. Right off the bat, by the way, means immediately or from the start. If you want explanations and examples of the expressions I'm using in this episode, you can find all of that in the transcript. It's available for free in the description. More good news. You've seen these pieces hundreds of times already. You just weren't looking at them as a system. Now you are. Let me show you what this looks like in real time. Let's take a word you might not know, irrefutable. First, I noticed the prefix ir. I've seen that before in irregular, irresponsible, irrational. It means not. Then I see the root, refute. Maybe I don't know that word exactly, but it sounds like refuse or rebut. Something about pushing back or denying. Then I see the suffix, able. That means can be done. So I put it together. Ir, not, plus refute, deny or disprove, plus able, can be done. My guess, something that cannot be denied or disproved. And that's exactly what it means. Irrefutable, undeniable. Did I know the word before? No. Did I get it right? Yes. Did I have to stop reading and break my flow? No. That's why knowing affixes is so useful. It saves you so much time. And here's the thing, even if I'd been slightly wrong, maybe I thought it meant cannot be refused, I'd still be directionally right. I'd still understand the sentence. And being directionally right is still a win in my book. You don't have to know the meaning exactly. Perfectionism is a fluency killer. Let it go. So, how do you actually train this skill? There are two main ways: focused study or general awareness. There are so many free resources available on the internet, websites, YouTube, social media. You do not have to spend any money to learn this skill. In fact, I put together a free guide for you, which you can download from my website. It will teach you 20 of the most useful affixes, so you don't have to focus on a bunch of random ones. You'll find the link in the description. If you don't want to focus on learning affixes, that's also totally fine. Be organic. It's slower, but more natural and likely going to stay with you longer. Here's what that can look like. When you're reading and you successfully understand a long word, pause for 1 second. Look at it. What parts do you recognize? What's the prefix? What's the suffix? You're not studying, you're just noticing. When you hear a word you don't know, don't immediately look it up. Try to guess first. What direction is it pointing? Then check. You'll remember it better because you engaged with it more deeply. Collect patterns, not words. If you see re in 3 different words this week, that's a pattern. Now that you're aware that these patterns exist, your brain will start recognizing them. So make sure to pay attention. I'm going to share one final thought with you, and I think this is a really important one because I know that a lot of learners worry about it. You've been taught that knowing a word means being able to define it. We're told that if you can't give a precise definition, you don't really know it. But that's not really how fluency works, in my opinion and experience. Fluency is built from confident approximation. It's knowing a word well enough to handle it in context. It's being 70% sure and still moving forward. I would say that your new definition is you know a word if you can handle it in context, not if you can say what's in the dictionary, not if you can use it perfectly in a sentence 100% of the time. If you can read it or hear it and stay oriented, you know it. That's the standard. And it's way more forgiving than the one you've probably been holding yourself to. So, the next time you see a long word and feel that moment of panic, I want you to remember this. You're not missing vocabulary, you're missing a system. Or rather, you were missing a system because now you have it. I just gave it to you. Look for the pieces. Ask what direction the word is pointing. Make your best guess. Keep moving. As always, thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.